Just let me know if you feel okay for us to start soon, or if you'd like me to give it another 5 minutes in case some of the other guest speakers enter.
I think it's okay to start now.
Okay, all right. Then I'll just go ahead. So, hello everyone, and welcome to our seminar on gender equality. It is, of course, a joy to be able to make this seminar happen with the Anna Lindh Foundation. Without further ado, I will give the stage now for Sandra, the chairperson of Mirsal, to commence with an introduction on Mirsal's work on integration and our work also regarding youth in gender equality. So please, Sandra.
Hello, everyone. Let me first share my screen. So I think now you are able to see my screen, yeah? Yeah, so hello, everyone. I will introduce myself again. My name is Sandra, and I'm the chairperson of Mirsal. I will explain a little bit about Mirsal for the ones who doesn't know what we do in Mirsal. Mirsal is an organization that supports the integration of immigrants in Finland. We especially focus on Arabic-speaking immigrants. The idea is that we provide integration services through modern or like how to say, like outside of the box methods. We get the ideas from our target group because we have direct contact with them as a community-based organization, and we try to engage them into the integration services itself. Like while we are producing our services, we take their needs into our account and we discuss with them. At the same time, we make our organization a kind of platform that all Arabic-speaking immigrants can improve their skills through our organization and also express themselves. So I want to go to the next page. Okay. Let me make it smaller. Okay, now I got it. So how we started, actually, the idea of our organization was at the beginning, like to focus on two aspects, like integration services. We, as I said, like we try to smooth the integration of Arabic-speaking immigrants. Like for instance, last year we had the For Better Work project. The idea was like to support Arabic-speaking workers to understand the Finnish working system and make them more aware about the services of trade unions and also make them active members in trade unions. Other part from our work is advocacy work. We try all the time to make our target group visible for the Finnish community and for the public sector and for also other NGOs when they provide services for immigrants, and also kind of make their voice heard and and also take their needs into the consideration while producing the services. Our organization based its efforts on the principles of equality, feminism, and justice. From like the work that we are doing, we have found that there is a common aspect, or let's say a common challenge when we want to talk about different kind of services that we have, or we want to implement our activities, we found that there is like a lot of taboos. I think the reason behind this is like our Arabic speaking community have like a very strong culture, very strong identity. We have a lot of customs, traditions that control our lifestyle, and I think that this is like the reason of having like that maybe more than any other community, a lot of taboos. How we started to talk about gender equality. As I said, the idea was not like to talk about gender equality as a main goal, but we have found ourselves that in order to provide smooth integration of like our target group into the Finnish society, and in order to make them have equal access, we found ourselves that we have to talk about gender equality, because according to our culture, we have this kind of different customs and traditions that make our people have some people have more advantage than others. So we thought that we need to try to solve this issue or challenge of gender discrimination in order to achieve better integration services, because gender equality is not only about it's not only a goal, it's a strategy that have to be in every organization, in every sector, in every society. It includes many different aspects. It includes for instance, the problem of domestic violence. It includes the problem of marginalization, how to make active citizens. So in order to achieve all what integration is, in order to achieve the meaning of integration, we should have also gender equality. Okay, here I will speak a little bit about our approach in Mirsal. First of all, we think that gender equality is very hard to achieve. It's more about learning process. It is but still it's not possible to achieve it. And we think that it is still important to achieve it in order to make better world. And we believe that it is a common concern that is concerning every one of us, and it is in every culture there is certain amount of gender discrimination. So gender equality is a common concern. So in our organization, we work with all society members. We for instance have a project targets men, and the project called Father is Important, also funded by Ministry of Employment this year. And the idea is that how we can make men active members inside their family and also outside their family in the working life. We talk with them about different gender related issues. We talk with them about gender equality, how to distribute roles. We believe that of course when women empowerment and supporting women is very important, but it's not only aspect in achieving gender equality. It should we should include all society members. Here I put some photos from our organization. Recently we had common action that is funded by Med Dialogue for Equality and Rights, and the idea was to also include kids in this and help kids to determine the gender discrimination, and help them to know how to protect themselves from discrimination and how to handle it, and also to learn about their personal rights. and make a kind of commitment, like not to break these what they learn during this our workshops. And we asked them also to like to draw a future for gender equality. And this is like one photo that one of the kids drew in this workshop. So first strategy we do is like work with all society members, but then we have also another strategy is like to break some taboos. We feel that now in Finland the issue of gender equality is like stuck in one level, and in order like to take it to other level, we need to break some taboos. We see that Finland policy is like to achieve, it's like one of the, Finland is in general like one of the leading countries in gender equality. But again, when we look deeply into this, we see that there is like high amount of high percentage of domestic violence. We see that migrant like communities still have like high percentage of gender discrimination, and we believe that this is happening because civil society is so much cultural sensitive, and which is important, but at the same time we feel that there are some topics that nobody is trying to talk about, and this is like we believe is a problem, because we can't make progress without breaking those taboos, like not like to break them at once, but like gradually. Is we think that it is important. Then like our third strategy that we use in Mirsal is like to make the discussions at our local level. We believe that that in order to achieve improvement in gender equality, we should start with our own community. As community-based organization, we think that it is easier for us to understand our culture, to understand our people, to understand the reasoning behind their like, for instance, their negative attitudes toward gender equality. So from that sense, we believe that if we start these discussions within our community, and we try to solve the complexes that we have inside our community, then we can take that out and also work with other communities and make like a better future for everyone in gender equality. Okay. Yeah. So what about youth? Actually, our organization have done many projects with youth. For instance, our projects with European Solidarity Corps. The idea is that we try to improve the well-being of youth and make them active citizens, make them put goals into their lives here in Finland and feel more included. As I said, like, our organization is a platform for immigrants in general to express themselves. So through our organization, they organize themselves activities, and they gather, and they do very important sometimes events. However, while we were dealing with youth, there was a little, like, a kind of disappointment concerning the youth attitude towards gender equality. We thought that youth is a new generation that is like the future generation, and but we still have seen that there is like a high percentage of youth. They still like stuck in our traditions that not supporting the gender equality, and which give like little bit a negative attitude toward gender equality. So from that sense, when Amal Foundation have announced this opportunity that for organizations to do something toward gender equality, we have found it like very good opportunity for us to focus on this subject and make workshops for our youth. We have conducted 2 workshops. The first one was about like how youth can improve the gender equality within inside the house, like within the family members. And then the other one was about how to improve the gender equality outside the house, like within the work, like for instance, working system, so and working life. As a result of these workshops, we found that we tried to make these workshops like very personal, because we have realized that many of privilege that we have, we don't see them until like someone like highlight those privilege for us, because they are invisible. So and that make some people not really realize the importance of gender equality, and how much gender discrimination can be painful, and because they already like have kind of privilege, so they think that everyone have the same kind of that privilege. But when we make it personal, and we have seen that some they like suffer of things that we think in our life that it is like come to us by nature, and it is like natural rights. It was like a surprise for many of youth, and I think this made us to make progress with them, how to change this like a negative attitude for them. As a result of these workshops, we have like made a document, and that document was about like recommendations and findings that we have collected from our workshops while working with youth. I wish that this document we can share it later with other civil society representatives, because I think that it was like a good document. Okay, so here I'm done. If you have any further questions, if you look for any cooperation with Mirsal, so please do not hesitate to contact me. I put here my contact information. Thank you very much, and I wish you to enjoy the rest of the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for your opening. Indeed, engaging our youth and young minds with gender equality is an important task, even as we live in a society such as or an environment like Finland. And I have personally also seen how during the past two workshops we've had with youth and young adults, how engaged they were really with the issues and taboos that exist in the Arab-speaking world, and how can we dismantle them and sort of deconstruct these some of our notions on gender roles. Now we proudly want to present the speakers that will be participating in this discussion for the next 2 hours. I will introduce every person along with their organization, regardless if, because I'm not quite able to follow if all of our speakers are here, but I will begin with by welcoming Heli Tikkanen from the Finnish Refugee Council. The Finnish Refugee Council has been supporting civil participation and helping organization and civic actors in all work related to integration of immigrants and refugees. Surely, I assume also gender equality has risen countless times in their work. I'd also like to introduce and welcome Abdirahim Hussein from Moniheli. Moniheli is an umbrella organization for over 100 multicultural organizations and is one of the key driving forces in supporting immigrant integration and social inclusion. Next, I'd like to dearly welcome Mulki Al-sharmani, Associate Professor of Islamic and Middle Eastern Studies in the Faculty of Arts of University of Humanity and Arts, of University of Helsinki. Her research includes Muslim family law and gender activism, Islamic feminism, and transnational Muslim marriages in Europe. I'd like to also welcome Yanika Wilén from Amal Amal is a social sector organization whose purpose is to support and promote girls' and women's well-being according to Islamic values. So empowering women, Muslim women, and they are also a strong advocate for the rights of Muslim women. Next, I'd like to welcome Liisa Kulta from Nicehearts RU. Nicehearts is an association with the aim to produce community-based activities for girls and women of different ages and backgrounds. The mission is to enable girls and women to find their own place in society as its equal and unique members. Also, I'd like to introduce Hope Makara and Patryk Sierpowski from Familia RU. Familia is a national expert organization of intercultural families. They support the well-being of intercultural families by offering peer support, volunteer activities, information, and advice. Family support comes in the form of comes for multicultural couples, parents, single moms, divorced couples, and such. Last but not least, I'd dearly like to welcome Dr. Leinonen, head of the Finnish Annalyn Foundation Network and the foundation of the Finnish Institute in the Middle East. Also, Finnish institutes in the Middle East activities includes supporting and facilitating Middle Eastern studies in Finnish universities and organizing education and cooperation with universities in Finland and the Middle East. I hope I pronounced everyone's name in the right manner, and also the introduction to their respective organizations. The first part of our discussion, we will address why gender equality is a key element in civil society and what is the role of the third sector and civic activities to promote this direction. So the magic of the third sector, so to speak. Starting from our first guest speaker, I would like to actually also make sure if Heli Tikkanen from the Finnish Refugee Council is with us. Heli Tikkanen, I don't think Heli is with us right now. Okay, well, I would then move on to Abdirahim Hussein from Moniheli with us?
I am here.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Abdirahim. Thank you for being with us. And first off, we would like to start by actually knowing more about how does Moniheli represent itself as a role model for smaller multicultural organizations in promoting work towards gender equality.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My Zoom camera is not working well. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me here. My name is Abdirahim. I am the Executive Director of Finland's largest multicultural organization, Moniheli. We have about a member of 100 and almost 40 different national organizations of over 41 different nationalities. Moniheli is 10 years old, a little bit over 10 years now. About the seminar's question, well, within all of these organizations that we have in Moniheli, with all that diversity, majority of our member organizations come from a background of African or Middle East, Asia, and majority of the countries where they come from, the idea or the concept of gender equality does not exist. Majority of them come from countries where men are, or one gender decides on the whole families or the whole community. And according to the numbers of the ones that we have now, there are some of the organizations that have been for a while in Finland, and we have understood through our organizations that through time, the more years these organizations are in Finland, the more information they get about gender equality and the more they understand about equality between different genders. But then we also have organizations that have been here less than 5 years or sometimes even less than 2 years, but are organized in a way that they would like to affect their own members. And within those ones, you will see 8 out of 10, it will be men or one-sided gender that would come and represent the rest of the people there. What we also see within our organizations is that in some parts of those organizations, just a second, please. I am at home and some people are shouting here. Just need to get the kids.
No problem. Actually, as we wait, I could answer.
Yeah, I am here.
Okay.
I am here. I am here. I just was asking the kids. My boys are fighting somewhere there. So, according to these organizations or some of the organizations, you wouldn't see even the, let's say, the women a little bit more active when their men are also with them in our activities. And what Moniheli does is we kind of encourage also those women to take part of the discussion, to tell about their opinions and what they feel and how they think things should be. But then on the other hand, you will find some organizations that have gone very well with the gender question, where men are quiet and that women are the ones who are doing all the talking and all that kind of stuff. And also in those ones, we try to make sure that the men's voice are not left behind. All in all, we are an organization that has a mission, a vision, and values that must and are always for gender equality. But in concrete, majority of some of the organizations, or even I would say even majority of the organizations, you would need to talk to them about what this means really in words and action. You will need to explain to them. And we in Moniheli have looked at this from the perspective of we will not be like forcing people to do this, but we will be always talking to them in a way that they would understand to take it within themselves. People come from a very different background, and when they come here, it takes time for them. So I don't think, or we don't think in Moniheli that by like forcing people or by trying to make, you know, mandatory to them everything, that it will work. But we encourage it and we promote it in a positive way, in a positive manner. Talk to both genders and make sure that it's important for all to talk. It's important for all to say. It's important for all to be active in the discussions where we are going to be with them. So I would say that we haven't found any problems about why or any of them saying that no, gender equality is not right and that shouldn't be there, anything like that. But we have seen people asking, what is the best way? What should be done? How can we find the best ways? The worst thing that I have encountered since being Moniheli's executive director is that you will find in some parts of our member organizations where you will hear, let's say, the women saying that in Finland, women comes first, and then there's the children, and then there's the home pets, and then the man. And this is taken to an extreme where the man is kind of discriminated against in a way that just because he was back home doing all the negative things, now it's kind of is a massive revenge on the men, so that now they're asked to be totally quiet and not say anything at all. And that's the extreme that we're also trying to avoid. But then also there are those organizations where the men are kind of like shutting down the women whenever they try to say something, and we also try to talk to them in a way that. So with all of this, our member organizations, for example, apply for funds from Moniheli. For example, in this year, 2022, we have about 100,000 euros that we are going to be giving to our member organizations. But for any of our member organizations to receive any of this, they have to respect and they have to act according to the values of Moniheli. And also, if they don't act according to our values, they cannot be a member of Moniheli. But we do support them to do that. So with these words, I will say thank you for inviting me once again. And if there are specific questions that I can ask, that you can ask, I will definitely answer them. But on the issue of gender equality within the member organizations or organizations itself, I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdirahim from Moniheli. Indeed, I think it's a very important point that you made regarding the consideration that in terms within organization work that we need to sort of put when we are dealing or encountering or working with individuals from different cultures, and regarding the setting that they are coming from, and sort of establishing the work from that point, and seeing where we can get together in terms of collaboration towards more towards work of equity and gender equality. Now, as I noticed that Sandra had already answered Dr. Mulki's question about where does Mirsal's name come from. So Mirsal, for the rest of the people that don't know, means in Arabic means messenger, and that is exactly how our work relies on being a messenger between the Finnish society and the Arabic speaking community. Now, next, I am not sure I can go through the previous speakers that I tried to see if they are here. Would Heli Tikkanen from Finnish Refugee Council be here now? Okay, I assume not. Then I will proceed to Dr. Mulki Al-sharmani, Associate Professor of Islamic and Middle Eastern Studies in the Faculty of Arts of University of Helsinki.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Perfect.
very well.
Very good. So مساء الخير. أنا سعيدة بوجودي معكم. So I'm saying that I'm happy to be with you, and I thank the organizers for inviting me. I find this to be very useful for me. I'm learning new things about your organization and other organizations. I'm taking notes now, so I find this very informative, and I'm happy to be in this forum. And I want to thank Anu, who told me about you, and and invited me. So and please call me Mulki. And usually, because I'm an academic, I tend to prepare PowerPoints, but then I had a change of heart now, and I'm sure everybody's sick and tired of PowerPoints, and you want this to be a little bit more discussion. So I have a PowerPoint. If you have questions, I can share that, but I'm thinking maybe I'll just talk to you and instead of losing you in the PowerPoint, although the PowerPoint has a lot of pictures. So I've been asked by Sandra and to talk about Islamic feminism. And Sharif, if I may call you Sharif, according to the program, I have 15 minutes. Do you want me to do it to the 15 minutes, or would you rather if I just give me the time management? So
I suppose that even if it stretches a little bit, I think at this point it is rather okay, since also we missing probably some of the speakers.
okay.
So feel free to take your time, and if it goes clearly above the limit,
You'll let me know.
I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Hey, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Maybe Sandra or Sharif, there is another question about this name, Mirsal, if you want to answer it in the chat while Mulki is talking.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, these are very good questions for discussion. Do you, Sandra and Sharif, want to take on that question before I start?
Okay, I can take the question. Why can't the members from different communities communicate to each other without a messenger? Well, actually, our organization is very open concerning the cooperation with our communities. We know that the migrant community is not only one community. It's about we don't have all one culture. We are everyone come from different background, have different culture. But of course, key persons in our community can speak without messenger, but of course having a kind of organization behind them can make their efforts more organized and make our work more to achieve the goals more systematically. So this is the idea of having organization toward achieving better integration. But of course, messenger is not in some cases needed, but in other cases, there are some immigrants who don't speak any other language than Arabic. I think that they still need a messenger to help them, and from there, we took the name of messenger for our organization. I hope that I answered your question somehow.
I agree with Sandra in that sense, and I see probably the unfortunate need for organization working as a messenger or sort of a middleman is because of the structural difficulties that we see, and obviously in this case, in the context of Finland, where then there comes the need for that. If we would, for example, know that the most of the services, social services, everything is available in these for the people that are trying to integrate, but at the same time have a huge language barrier, then probably the need for for a so-called messenger would not be that big. So I see it from this perspective as well. But yeah, thank you for that question.
Okay, so I've been asked to talk about Islamic feminism and its relevance for the theme of your seminar. So I'm going to start with some questions, and basically what I'm going to do, my goal is to share with you some reflections of what is Islamic feminism. Is it one thing or not? And how is it relevant for this gender equality, the theme of the seminar? And what is not Islamic feminism, right? Which is an open question. And I base my reflections on research that I've been doing since 2011, and specifically on Islamic feminism since 2013. So is Islamic feminism like anybody who is working or any effort or any individuals working for the equality of Muslim gender equality, in Muslim communities? Is that so? Is that Islamic feminism? Is it Muslims who are working for the equality of women and men, i.e., Muslim women and men? So and what is the Islamic in it, and what is the feminism in it? So sometimes we tend to use the term very loosely and very kind of arbitrarily, and and it can mean a lot of things. And of course, if someone or some entity defines itself as we are Islamic feminism, it has every right, and then they define what do they mean by that. But often, particularly in earlier Western scholarship, anything having to do with gender equality and Muslims, and particularly if it's led by Muslims, sometimes it's all lumped together under Islamic feminism. So what I would like to propose to you is that actually we need to unpack it, and not everything, because then it becomes meaningless. So and it's not one thing, Islamic feminism, but one thing that I would like to share with you. Islamic feminism, one element of it is a scholarship. It's a knowledge project. It's a scholarship produced predominantly, but not exclusively, but predominantly by Muslim scholar women/activists since the late 1980s, early 1990s. And these Muslim women, they are scholars, and they want their scholarship to inform activism. So they are predominantly based in academic circles, but they're not just producing knowledge for the sake of knowledge, although they are based in universities, but they want this knowledge to be transformative, to inform, for example, Muslim family laws. And they are concerned with the question of gender equality. And basically what they're doing are two things. They are engaging with the Quran and Islamic textual tradition, and doing two things: trying to trace and deconstruct patriarchal interpretations that justify men's superiority, men's authority over women, and are underlying and informing Muslim family laws, particularly in Muslim majority context where the family laws are drawn from Islamic jurisprudence, and even in minority contexts where people also organize their marriages and divorces, drawing on these the patriarchal interpretations of these juristics. And these women also not just deconstruct, so they're not just critiquing, it's not just a project of critique, they're also trying to what we call reconstruct. They're trying to offer an alternative readings, alternative readings that make the case for gender equality. And they are very keen on saying we are trying to make this gender equality from an Islamic perspective. Hence, the Islamic part in it is that this is a scientific project, this is an activism project, but it is based on Islamic grounds, all right? And it engages with the textual tradition, and it sees itself as a part of that tradition, but it's critiquing that tradition. It's critiquing particularly the interpretations that have become authoritative. These women are based in different contexts. So some of them are in the global north, in the UK, in America. Some of them are in Global South, although these terms are loaded, of course, but like in Indonesia, in Egypt, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in South Africa. So it's all over the place. And some of them, you could say what the work that they produce is transnational, i.e. they work in these international languages like English, but also their own languages, like produce something in Arabic, something in Bahasa Indonesian, and so on. And others really focus only on their local and regional context. So in the Arab context, in Egypt, where I've been working a lot, there are some of these scholars who are producing just in Arabic and focusing on Egyptians, but also Arab speaking in that region. So there's that element of scholarship that is very important in Islamic feminism that we need to take a look at it. And I have examples of who these people are. If you're interested in the Q&A, I can show you in the slides some of these examples of these people. And then some of them also are, because they want to transform, they want to, they are part of collective efforts to disseminate this knowledge and to reform particularly Muslim family laws, where they see there's a lot of gender inequality. And so they form regional collectives, national collectives, like for example in Malaysia, there's these scholars who are working with an organization, maybe some of you have heard of it, since they've been around since the 80s, Sisters in Islam. And they try to reform the family law in Malaysia and so on. There's another network in Indonesia called KUPI. So it's a network of religious scholars, men and women, who are also feminists. And they say we are Islamic feminists. And they are trying to issue new fatwas addressing issues like child marriage, the reform of the Indonesian law. And so there are these also collective movements. It's a knowledge building movement, some of them national, like Sisters in Islam. In Indonesia, there's this KUPI, it's called KUPI, short, the acronym for it. In Egypt, there are a couple of these organizations that work towards that. And then there are those, and in South Africa as well. And there are some scholars who might not be part of those collective efforts, but they try to make a difference, even though if they're not part of these collective efforts, they also see, they share that goal of we want to deconstruct, we want to reconstruct, and we want to inform, we want to reform legal family laws, we want to reform religious domain. In what sense religious domain? So that women have more presence in the production and the dissemination of Islamic religious knowledge. There's something about the politics of this naming, because some of these women who are engaged in this, they have an issue with Islamic, with the feminist part in Islam. So in Islamic feminism, so not all of them espouse the feminism. So a famous one, maybe some of you have heard of her, is Asma Barlas, based in North America, and she produced this very important book called Unreading Patriarchy in the Quran. Right? And she says, I have an issue with feminism. That is a Western legacy. That is a colonial legacy. Yes, I'm interested in gender equality. Yes, I'm interested in deconstructing patriarchy in the textual traditions and their how they impact policies, how they impact laws, how they impact societal norms. But I'm not a feminist. There's a lot of baggage with feminism, and she says, I'm a seeker. I'm a seeker of, like she sees this as part of her faith-based pursuit. So I am interested in gender equality, precisely, that's Asma Barlas, because I am a Muslim who's seeking the betterment of the society, seeking a closer relationship with my creator. Another thing that I want to point out about these the scholarship is that these women do not, these scholars / activists, do not shy away from affirming their faith-based position. And this is something we can discuss. So they are open about being Muslims, are about being believing Muslims, right? But also, and some of them are okay with saying we are feminists, we are Islamic feminists, right? An example is, for example, Umayma Abu Bakr. She is based in Egypt. There's Asma Lamrabit in Morocco. There are Noor Rufia in Indonesia. And remember, mostly women, but there are some men who are part of that project. Like there's a scholar of hadith and also an activist called Faqih Abdul Qadir in Indonesia, part of that network of men and women who are religious scholars and feminists. So there are those who are okay with the term, and there are those, all of them are okay with the faith-based position, and they've been taken to task on that. In that they are not an anomaly, because you can also link them to Christian feminist theology, Jewish feminist theology, and of course it's not one thing, you know. So there are women theologians in the Jewish tradition, in the Christian tradition, who have also worked on religious patriarchy, unpacking it, and some of them say, okay, from a faith-based, right? You know, we believe in this tradition, we think this tradition is meaningful, but again, we don't want to homogenize all of them. So these Islamic feminist scholars do not shy away from their faith-based. They are scholars, but they also say this scholarship is for activism. And they kind of like a misfit. And here I'm now jumping to the challenges they have. Because on the one hand, they tend to be mostly from social sciences, humanities, some of them trained in theology, Islamic theology, but in so-called secular academic universities. They are not in traditional religious seminaries. They're not like in Al-Azhar. They're not like in Al-Qarawin. They're not like, so they have challenges from two sides, two polar sides. The traditional religious scholars would say, who are you to claim religious authority and provide alternative interpretations, question some of the dominant authoritative interpretations that have become sort of like a part of the mainstream religious discourse when it comes to women and gender issues. So they are taken to task on that. And on the other hand, the academic side, particularly those who are working in Islamic studies, in secular universities, they would take issue with them. Some of them saying, well, if you're going to be a scholar, you can't have a faith-based position. You can't say I'm a believing and I take religion seriously. So then you're not objective. You're not really a researcher. You're not really a scholar. So they have an issue with that part. And also, if you're going to say my scholarship, I don't want my scholarship to be just for the sake of scholarship and for me getting tenure and so on. But I want to work on the ground. I want this knowledge to inform, to change family laws, to change religious institutions. Then they say, well, you can't be a scholar and objective and be an activist. So they have these different challenges. And then what do they work on? So some of them work on the Quran. And of course, if you work on the Quran, the other side of the coin is the tafsir, the exegesis, the Quranic exegesis. So some of them work on the Quran and the exegesis. Some of them, for example, like Umayma Abu Bakr, Asma al-Amrabit, there are those who work more on Islamic legal tradition and specifically Islamic jurisprudence, what we call in Arabic fiqh, and that's very important because it informs many of the codified Muslim family laws now in Muslim majority context, and even the uncodified ruling. And by codified, I mean like a state law, that the state passes. And there are those who work on the hadith, although less so. They tend to focus more on the Quran and the exegesis, and Islamic jurisprudence, and they link it to work on modern family laws. And there are those who work on Sufism and say, you know what, Sufism is also important. And one of the problems we have when we come to gender inequality in Islamic textual tradition is how we separate these different genres of knowledge. Sufism is not just some kind of an abstract spiritual domain. It has very important Quran-based principles that need to inform Islamic law, that is very relevant to the question of gender equality. Someone who works on that is Saadia Sheikh. So she is a South African scholar, scholar of Islamic studies, Islamic feminist. She says, I'm an Islamic feminist. And another example of the dimension of activism that is informed by this project is this global network of scholars and activists. called Musawa. Musawa in Arabic means equality. And originally it came out of Sisters in Islam, which was this organization in Malaysia. And then it was launched in 2009, led by Muslim women and men, scholars / activists, also lawyers, organizations working on gender equality issues, but very much foregrounding the question of knowledge and how knowledge is very important and how democratization of religious knowledge is very important in order to change things on the ground. And as a disclaimer, I'm also part of that network of Musawa, so that you know, and I'm happy to answer your questions. So this is one thing that I wanted to highlight. One of the questions was, okay, how is this relevant to Western context? On the one hand, there are these scholars who are based in Western and Muslim majority context. So you have people in UK, you have people in America, you have and you have people in Muslim majority context. And I would put to you is like when we talk about the question of gender equality, particularly from a knowledge-based perspective, I think it's also helpful that we make linkages between Muslim majority context and minority context, and we do not. Yes, they have their specificities, but there's also, in my point of view, a danger of separating them, right? Because there are these transnational trends and there are these connections. So some of these movements and initiatives that I've been telling you about really cross national borders and work transnationally. So that's another thing that I wanted to highlight. So if you come to Finland, and I'll tell you very quickly about research that I've been doing in Finland on Muslim marriage practices and mosques' roles in family dispute resolution, and where it was part of an Academy of Finland project. So I interviewed women and I was working with colleagues of mine. It was a project. And I just want to tell you that I met some women who were very interested in religious knowledge and who were reading the Quran, going to fiqh classes, acquiring religious knowledge from different perspectives, from the internet, from some of them traveling, and very keen on living what they call a Muslim ethical life, right? And when I talked to many of these women, and this was like a 4-year project, they often had an issue with the gender inequality, and I can show you some examples if you're interested. Like I had like some excerpts from some of my interview data. So there's one of them, I call her Nafisa, but that's not her real name. And she was my interlocutor, and I worked with her for a while. And first of all, the question of knowledge was so important for these women. Also, their relationship, religious knowledge, their relationship to the religious tradition was not static. So, for example, Nafisa grew up in a very religious family, in the sense of rituals. You have to pray, you have to fast, and that was important. But she said she didn't really reflect on that. Yeah, she was part of a Muslim family, but then as she got older, and precisely because she started, but not only, as a racialized, she saw herself as Finnish, but also as a racialized minority, and people started asking about Islam this, Islam that, and often in a negative way. This was partly one of the motivations that I need to learn my religion. I need to be more actively involved. It's not just what my parents transmitted to me. So she started learning actively and reflecting on it. And some of the things she articulated to me were very egalitarian. So, for example, she had an issue with polygamy. And when she got married to her husband here, also Finnish Muslim, they had, the religious marriage, and then it was registered because it was in a mosque that had, the license. As you know, the Finnish model, if you have a license that you can conclude a marriage, and it's registered in what used to be known as the maistrati. And she and her husband and the family agreed on a stipulation in the marriage that he will not take a second wife, right? She was against polygamy, and they agreed on that. And they were married for a while. After that, the marriage broke up for other reasons. But it was so she was against polygamy. They were also, both of them, providing for the household. They were equally sharing spousal roles, which is not different from the construction of spousal roles in Islamic jurisprudence. The man is supposed to provide, not the woman. But the reason why I'm sharing with you this example is that also her arguments. So her arguments with polygamy was, why is she against polygamy? She didn't use rights discourse. She didn't say, oh, because I want to be equal, or because I don't want another wife, co-wife in the marriage. And she said to me that it would have hindered her ability to be a better Muslim. That, you know, to be a better Muslim, she cannot be in a polygamous relationship, because that would have been against, you know, it would have created ill-being, not well-being of herself and her family. So I thought that was very interesting. So why am I mentioning her? Nafisa does not call herself Islamic feminist. But she has an issue with gender inequality from a different perspective. So I think the reason why, what I want to highlight is that also, as we see Islamic feminism as a scholarship, we also need to see other things going on. One is, first of all, how women more and more Muslim women are having more and more access to religious knowledge, how they are being actively involved in thinking about that knowledge and reflecting on it, active learners, not passive recipients, and how they question gender inequality, but they're not homogeneous. They're not all questioning it from the same perspective. Some of them might not be interested in this rights discourse, but they have an issue with the same things, which is gender inequality. So I think that that's also a relevant point to highlight. So what I want to leave you with is that Islamic feminism is not one thing. Number two, the scholarship aspect of it is very important, and often we as lay people are not aware of it, and it's a good thing to learn about it. It's also a good thing to see to what extent it informs gender activism on the ground, nationally, transnationally. But also, we need to be aware of how the access to religious knowledge, Islamic religious knowledge, is becoming diverse. And so which means religious authority is being decentered, and that does not mean necessarily, by the way, that it leads to gender equality. So Nafisa is one example. There are other people, women who become assume religious authority, who assume religious leaders, and I can give you examples of some of the research that I've done, and reproduce patriarchal discourse. So also the access to the knowledge and women being more present in the religious domain and as religious leaders, which is important, I think, and producers of religious knowledge, they don't all lead to the same effect. Now, I want to stop here because I want to give people a chance if they want to interact or ask, and I'm happy to share specific examples with you. And thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mulki. Wow, I think we, as we can see even in the comment section, there's a lot of praise going on for, including me. I feel like I have learned so much in this fragment, and I suppose that a lot of us were already very curious to know about the idea behind Islamic feminism and Islamic feminists and Muslim feminists. I'd actually now, since we have also, I think, quite a good time for the question Q&A session here, since we actually have done our first part of the discussion. So I would welcome anyone's questions to any of the speakers during the first part of our discussion. So please.
Maybe I can start. I would like to ask Abdirahim if he can share with me, because I'm ignorant of it, some of the activities that you do in your organization, and also how do you navigate the tension that you told us about the women and the men and how the participation is different. We know when the men are there. Thank you.
I also have a question for Mulki, but maybe first I should answer your question. It is having a lot of hot potatoes in the hand at the same time, and seems sometimes like nobody wants to hear what the other is trying to say. I think the biggest challenge we have had within our network when the decision or the discussion of gender, especially between men and women, is discussed, for some reasons, or for some reason, we have a lot of for and against motions, which are very, I would say, a little bit aggressive. I would even say that. And I know of organizations where they are very young, educated, migrant background women from the Muslim community or not the Muslim community, and both are discussing gender equalities. But then I, for example, personally, who consider myself as a feminist, because in my understanding of feminism is that supporting and giving the possibility to all genders, especially women, to have the same rights and responsibilities, just like men. I also consider myself as one. And whenever I go to these discussions where they're having, you would see people kind of butting heads and not really wanting to talk to each other. But then when it comes to the organization itself, what we try to kind of promote is to listen to one another. And before you even do listen to one another, sometimes it's very important to also understand where does the other person come from. If you come from a part of the world where men kind of make all the decision, and then all of a sudden now you have to share that responsibility. What we do is we try to kind of share it, try to show the man or the people hanging on not giving that away, to understand from the perspective of sharing is kind of caring. And also the more responsibilities you have, the more problems you have. So if you could share with the other gender and stuff like that. So this is what we try to promote, and we try to stay away from this perspective of religion and feminism, because it kind of brings a lot of also negativity towards people. And then we also try to find the right people to discuss in this events, so that they wouldn't be kind of, I remember when we try to say that X or Y person we would like to bring that person or this person, then you will hear the board or the people preparing the event to go and Google this person and kind of bring out the negativity of what this person has said sometimes back and stuff like that. And it's really very hard to kind of talk about the issue itself within the migrant community. But I think from our perspective as an organization, the most important one is hear one another, respect one another, even though you disagree, and try to find a common place where you can all work. Those are the 3 points we try to empower within the network. But my question to you, if that's allowed by the MC, is for some reason, whenever we talk about feminism, especially within the Muslim community also, it is kind of perceived in a very negative way. It's kind of perceived as women who are angry or were divorced by their men and somehow trying to get back to men in some way or some other. And then whenever you see in the media, you will find a very angry young woman that comes and talk about the issue. So my question to you, Mulki, is how come, or what is your understanding? Why is it that the logic people who can understand, who can explain this issue in a matter that everyone can understand, are not called to those platforms, but rather this young, let's say, a little bit aggressive people will be called to the media and talk about this issue? I just wanted to understand: is it a media bias that media just want to bring this, or is there? I wouldn't say lack, but are there real people who can talk about this issue? Are they hesitating to come in and really bring this discussion up because it's really needed? especially within the Muslim community, if I would say so. Thank you.
Certainly, I hear you, right? And I very quickly, I just want to, since you mentioned the angry, because I'll very quickly show it to you, and then I'll be sharing these slides later. I'll send it to Sandra. But this is what. Okay, this one. Okay, this one, you know, and this was in one of the Egyptian media after the divorce law called Khola was introduced in Egypt in 2000. And this is a law that allows women to petition for non-fault divorce, i.e. that she doesn't have to have grounds for fault from her husband, and she goes to the court and his consent is irrelevant, you know, and then she gets the divorce, but in exchange she gives up her financial dues. And it comes from Islamic jurisprudence. It's based on an encounter between the Prophet and one of the women, and the different schools, Sunnis and Shias, establish khul', although the majority opinion, these schools used to understand it as the consent of the husband is assumed. You know, he has to consent to it, although the verse on which it's based, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah 229, and the hadith does not say that. But the reason why I mention this is that in the media, you write how the media portrays and who talks is important. In the media, this khula was presented as, take a look at the woman, you know, so look at how she's dressed. So the image is she's kind of like Western, she's not really part of the authentic culture, and angry, and the man has been dwarfed, his masculinity has been diminished, you know, and this is what khula will do to us, you know, presented as not authentic, not from the culture, not from the religion, will destroy the family, and will just enable these angry women who are man-haters. Right? So the point that I want to make is how it's presented in the public discourse is incredibly important. Okay, and then to answer your question very quickly, I think it matters who's the actor, who's doing the talking, with whom, who are we engaging with, and for what purposes. So if I were like working in an organization and I'm working in a neighborhood in Finland or somewhere in Tunis or in Egypt, and I want to empower and work with local communities, and I want to address gender inequality issues, it makes sense that you don't hinder yourself with terms. You know, you can convey the arguments. Is exactly what all of you were saying, with Sandra in Mirsal's work, and Abdirahim, exactly what you are doing. First, to have a constructive dialogue, educate people about the content, rather than getting trapped in the terms. You know, and then it's a matter of education is so important, and knowledge, and it's organic. I remember I studied different and communicated with different religious scholars and women's rights activists, as well as Islamic feminist scholars in Egypt and Morocco and Indonesia. I went to these countries, and I remember, like in 2013, there was this discussion with religious scholars from the Azhar in Alexandria, and similar thing in Morocco, and there was a lot of resistance. What are you talking about? What is this Niswaya Islamiyya? What is this Islamic feminism stuff? But then when you put aside the term and you talk about the content, and you have sound arguments, then you get somewhere, and it's organic and it evolves. So now when you go to Egypt now, for example, it has become, it's still debated, but it has certainly become part of the public discourse. You see it on social media. You see lay people saying, "Oh, I'm a," you know. So it's, the term itself has become well known, you know, and part of the discourse. The other thing I think I want to say is, most of us see we need to educate you know, people who are interested, but people who might not know this, that feminism is one. It is a knowledge. You know, there are theories about how we know what we know, the relationship between knowledge and power, methodologically, and it's an epistemology, it's a methodology that is important to learn from, even if you're not interested in gender. Feminism as an area of study has something to contribute, even if you're working on politics, if you're working on social justice, on some other cause. So because we tend to see feminism in just from one lens and in a kind of very simplistic way. So it's a knowledge, it's an epistemology, that is, if it's a methodology, and as you said, definitely it's a political consciousness. It's this position to say that I think people of all genders should have equal rights, right? And then you have terms of reference. On what basis do you justify those grounds? On what basis do you say all these men and women are equal, or people from different, whatever, gender, race are equal? Then in our case, part of it is citizenship. We can, of course, appeal to the discourse of citizenship. I say we're all citizens of a particular polity. Of course, we all have to be equals. But also, for those of us who are also invested in religious norms and religious teachings, particularly that they do inform laws, they do inform norms, it's not enough simply to say, oh, because we are all citizens. So you need to go to the religious domain and look at the authoritative knowledge, look at the authoritative interpretations, be equipped with knowledge, do the homework of studying it really rigorously, and engaging not just with people. We don't sing to the choir, not only all of us who believe in gender equality, but those who are completely disagree with you, but have a constructive dialogue. I think that it's a lot of work that we need to do. And then remember, and some of you know that, Salama, one of the wives of Prophet Muhammad, and this is recorded in the historiography of Islam. There's different accounts of it. Sometimes it is said it is Salama, sometimes it's said it's one of the women who was contemporary of Muhammad, and peace be upon him. And she said, where are we women in the Quran? Is this Quran only for men? Nobody then, as far as we know, the textual accounts that we have, no, it does not say the Prophet telling them, oh my God, you are an apostate. How dare you question the Quran? You know, there was this, even if back then there was patriarchy, there was this space for difference. There was this space for debate, and you know, we know in the Asbab al-Nuzul this genre, textual genre called the circumstances of revelation, that certain verses were revealed after women raised that question. Why 33, 35, you know, Surah Al-Ahzab, you know, like is this Quran only for women, for men? So I think in the modernist time, our challenge is more, because there's this idea of that this textual tradition is treated as if it's divine, as if it's sacred, as if you cannot question it. And by questioning it doesn't mean you throw it away. You don't throw the baby with the water, but you engage with it critically, respectfully, and from a place of knowledge.
Thank you, Mulki. Very informative answer again, and thank you also, Abdirahim, for reflecting upon your, so more specifically about your work and gender equality in Moniheli. I would like to there's still time. So if anyone has questions, additional comments.
Hey, Sharif, if it's okay, I have a question for Dr. Mulki.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for your presentation about Islamic feminism, because like I said in the comments, I learned so much, and I was thinking, like, I wonder if I could take a lecture from her at the university, like when she's teaching, because I was wanting to hear more. But this thing that you said about the term feminism and how it's inherently Western, and how even through this term trying to fit the scope of Eastern or Muslim cultures into this term feminism, and kind of how they intersect. maybe my question is, how can I, in my own work or as an organization, as a non-Muslim person, help support like the progression of not just like Muslim feminism, but also that there is a safe, like a space to be able to talk about that and kind of I don't know, make the term feminism more accessible to non-Western cultures, or what sort of term would you recommend? Sorry, those were a lot of questions, but whatever you have for us.
Yeah. So I think first of all, thank you Hope for your interest and your 4 questions, and please call me Mulki. And we, by the way, we have and now I'm doing some publicity. We have several courses on also comparative courses. First of all, we do offer courses on Islamic feminism. I teach them myself, but we also have 2 MA courses where we one historical and one modern, where we do comparative feminist issues. So we look at the 3 Abrahamic traditions. We look at women in sacred texts in Islam, in Judaism, and Christianity, the historically, and then a modern one. Right now, I'm co-teaching with my colleague Elena Walla, where we look at what is this feminist theology in the 3 traditions, and we're looking at Islamic feminism, we're looking at Christian and Jewish theology, and we offer these are our staple MA courses. So we will offer one spring and then the next spring. So and you're more than welcome to come and join us. I would say it depends on what you want to do. And what's your purpose? What's your goal? So if your goal is to address gender inequality issues, and specifically, let's say if it's a matter of like inequality in housework, for example, or parenting and how children are parented, or restricting women's access to labor, I would not get bogged down on the terms. I would really work on find out also how are the people, how are they justifying their norms? What are they basing their norms on, right? What are they basing their perspectives on? And then depending on your agenda and your goal as an organization, right? Then I would, of course, and I'm sure you know this, the more it's grassroots, the more it's participatory, the more it's community-based, and it comes from the people themselves, the more it is meaningful, the more it's effective. And I would work on the arguments and tie them to the well-being of the whole family as well as the women, right? So in this Academy of Finland project, one of the concepts we studied rigorously, well-being. Is this gender equality and gender, is it relevant to the question of well-being in Muslim marriages and families? And we worked in Finland, and we did this very extensive research, but also we brought in international research partners who looked at the same issue in UK, in the Netherlands, and elsewhere, and we produced some things. So, and we found that, and we theorized this well-being. So the well-being consists, first of all, based on the work of a scholar called Sarah White, is that part of it has to do with material things. What do people actually need in terms of documents, jobs, ability to be a full-fledged member in the Finnish society? And part of it is relational. Do they have ability to have a nurturing relationship within their families, within their communities, and the larger society? So and then the third aspect, which is very important, is what we call the ethical, or on what basis, what are the norms, what are the values that people espouse and articulate when they talk about their family needs, their challenges, and so on. So this is a long way of telling you is that you don't need to go to feminism. You could do a lot of work that is organically linked to feminism and Islamic feminism without using the term, right? But if you are interested also in knowledge production, I am interested in it as an academic, and I'm interested in it as an academic also who wants to democratize religious knowledge. Then that's another thing. So that means really also focusing on the knowledge aspect. How do people read texts? How do people understand their traditions? So it depends also on the goal of the different organizations. I hope I answered your question, and I'm happy to elaborate. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mulki. And yes, I'd like to just check the comment section. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Abdirahim, if I misaddressed you at some point. Mr. Abdirahim is the executive director of Moniheli, but I don't recall saying anything in terms of an address, or correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it wasn't because of you. There was a comment, somebody asking, are you the spokesperson of Moniheli? So I was just,
yeah.
I think it
Okay.
was Hanna Sylvia sent me that message, sorry.
No problem, no problem.
I'm sorry, Hanna, I answered to everyone. I was thinking of answering you, sorry.
Okay, so right now we have, I think it is our time for a small break. The idea is that we have a 10-minute break and then come back for the second part of our discussion. I assume that we can also take other questions then, or what do you think, Sandra? Could we take other questions now, maybe before the break?
Depends on the schedule. I don't know, like how is our
Well, because it's 20 past now, and according to the schedule, at this point, yeah, we would have a 10-minute break and continue at past, but
okay, maybe the question can, and now I see that it is answered like through chat.
Okay, all right, great. Please, it's 22 past now on my clock, so in 10 minutes, let's say 33 past 5, we can continue. So everyone has time to drink a bit of water, coffee, anything like that. See you soon. Um, I hope everyone has had a nice, relieving short break. I assume that we can continue now with our second part of the seminar. So welcome again to our seminar on gender equality. We hope that you had a good breather and time of reflection based on our earlier discussion. Next, we will move on to discuss women and family support, the different methodologies to empower migrant women and families, and what are some of the most common challenges and obstacles in this particular issue. Our first speaker will be Yanika Wilén from Amal. I just want to make sure if Yanika is with us.
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Okay, thank you and welcome Yanika to our discussion. I will let you begin with the one question in mind, that what do you think are one of the most common challenges Muslim women in Western and Nordic societies like Finland face, and how does Amal as an organization attempt to tackle that?
Thank you, first of all, everybody, and for the invitation, thank you. And I'm kind of nervous and excited to be here. My name is Yanika Wilén, and I'm not here only as a representative of Amal ry, but I'm also here as an individual, as a Finnish Muslim woman. Just a little bit about myself. I think it has maybe some valid points to my own personal opinions about the subject. I'm almost graduated from the social services professional, and I have been a Muslim more than half of my life. I have 6 children and I have been divorced twice. And why I mention this is because I'm also an expert by experience. I know this is not maybe known as a term by everybody, but it basically means that you use your own experience to talk about certain things. And in my case, my themes are domestic violence, a child with a special need, divorce and the legal custody battle, and a user of multiple social services. Amal ry is a social service organization, and it's been established in 2017, so we are quite young as an organization. And the main aim, or the general aim of Amal ry is to support Muslim women and girls in Finland from different backgrounds. It doesn't matter where you come from. And having said that, we also don't say no to people who are not Muslims, as long as they accept that our principles are in the Islamic basis. The word Amal means hope, and as an organization, this is what we try to share and spread hope to people. And what are the common challenges for Muslim women in the Western and Nordic societies like Finland? I was thinking about it from different perspectives, and one thing I would like to mention is that there are so many different kinds of Muslims in Finland and in Europe in general. And just because we share the faith, we are not the same. You can't put us all into the same category, and you cannot generalize. You still have to take us all as individuals. We all have different hopes and dreams, and we all have different backgrounds, which obviously affects our life as a whole. And women are put into a mold from a young age. And I'm not talking about only immigrant women or only with Arab background or only from certain things. That happens also here in Finland. I am Finnish by born, and I'm like 100% Finnish. So it does happen in every society. There are certain expectations that people expect women to behave in a certain way. And this, when I mentioned that, I was thinking that, is that my own assumption? Or how do you actually define or separate the challenges of a Muslim woman from any other woman? Of course, there are some specialities in that. Women are being judged for the fabric that they wear, whether they wear it on their head or don't wear it on their head, or whether it's just to cover the critical parts, i.e., whether you're covered from head to toe or whether you wear a bikini in the beach, you are still being judged. And whatever women do or say or don't say, it's often being criticized for wearing too little or for wearing too much, having an opinion or not being educated enough. So it's like whatever we do, there's always somebody saying something back. But some of the challenges just for Muslims, I think, are hijab. It is something that many people are struggling with. Can I wear it? How can I wear it? Will they give me a job if I have a hijab? In Finland, we have the freedom of religion. So that does give you certain amount of freedom and rights as a Muslim woman. Another topic is praying at work, for example. I've mentioned this in another seminar with Mirsal, but there are cases when prayer really should not be a problem at work. People have coffee breaks, they go for a cigarette, they just wander around somewhere doing nothing. So really 2-3 minutes somewhere for yourself should not really be a problem. Then another thing about being part of this Finnish society, when it comes to free mixing and alcohol, for example, not everybody, not all Muslims are very strict. They can go to a meeting where others are having alcohol, for example, but that doesn't go for everybody. And then when you're applying for a job, for example, just to have a name which is not basic Finnish name can give you, hassle, and it will be a struggle. Also, the culture. When I generalize other cultures compared to a Finnish culture, I think that culture has a lot of, it has a bigger meaning or in other cultures than in Finnish. Family is kind of more important in other cultures than it is in Finland, or this is how it seems. I wouldn't say that it's not important to Finnish people, but this is how it seems to others. So this cultural part is kind of important for Muslim women. Also the language barrier for many. But like I said, in Finland, there's lots of different Muslims. Some are Finnish, some are foreigners. So again, you can't generalize. About Amal and what we have done or trying to do about the gender equality. In Amal, we are trying to bring awareness about the gender equality in our organization as a whole. We are training professionals, for example, like social workers or midwives or workers who are in child protection or family work, about the cultural and religion conscious work, how you take the religion and culture into consideration when you, for example, as a social worker, when you go to a Muslim family, what you have to consider in there? Yes, we have laws and regulations, what apply, and it has to apply, but that doesn't mean that you cannot be considerate of other people's own beliefs and cultures. And you have to take that, because for you to be able to be successful in what you're trying to achieve, for example, in the social work, you have to take the background of the family or the individual into consideration. We have done some statements or maybe even lobbying about Muslim women. For example, the United Nations Resolution 1325 about women, peace and security. And as part of Muslim Forum, we made a statement about the hijab as part of police uniform. And this hijab, like I mentioned, is one of the challenges, of course. And also what we do is we arrange different kind of peer support groups. For example, for women who have experienced domestic violence, and for new Muslims or even non-Muslims who are married to Muslims. Those are the two groups, for example, that we have had. Then other activities like every Ramadan, we have some iftar, we have some picnics, we had a children's club, we have open cafes, which is open to anybody. Sometimes they have a theme and sometimes not. And also some summer camps, which is sometimes for women and children. And sometimes we also try to focus on women without the children. I think we can all agree that it is beneficial at times. And in general, we try to support the women in finding services that fit their own needs and would support and be beneficial to them. Sometimes we have been accused as an organization of being too feminist and non-Islamic also, mainly by men, unfortunately, but because they feel, in my opinion, they feel threatened because we try to support women's rights, not against Islam. We don't do that. We also do not teach Islam. But the rights of women is for example, the right to have a divorce, or having a family life without violence. These, for example, are topics that raise eyebrows when these are talked about. But this is something some of us in Amal feel very passionate about. And I also mentioned that my own experience, because this is part of what I want to do. I am a Muslim, I am Finnish, I have been through something, and I want to help other people come over it and feel better and empower them. If that to some people is being un-Islamic or being too feminist, I can't change their opinion. I'm sorry. And that's about it. I'm open to questions if somebody has any comments or questions.
Thank you, Yanika, very much. I'm sure there's going to be questions after this discussion session. We can actually take them then all together, but I certainly have been, as a person who identifies as a Muslim, really been also needing to, especially as a Muslim man, probably to hear opinions like this and actually feel like that it's great that we give opportunity even for such issues that could shake opinions of some men to that we start speaking, and nothing happens without starting that conversation.
Yes.
And And it's a very good point also that Yanika has made here in terms of Muslim women in general, that also personally coming from, grown up here, but coming from an Arab family, that it's important to actually identify for the public or make it clear that Arabs or the Middle East and Islam are not synonymous terms, and it's a very a common misconception that happens often, especially in the Western world. I think even if I'm not wrong, Arab Muslims make only probably a very tiny percentage of the entire Muslim population around the world, and whatever patriarchal toxic values that may exist in some Arab cultures, they are certainly do not represent the values of other Muslims around the world. But does Mulki have? Do you have your hand up?
Is it time for questions or later? I wanted to ask Yanika something, but I can wait if it's later for the Q&A.
Yeah. Preferably for the Q&A, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
Since right now, also, I'd like to welcome Liisa Kulta from Nicehearts ry. And I would like to begin also by having an introductory question for you. In what form does Nicehearts work supporting women and girls appear, and how does your activity encouraging the inclusion of different generations of women help in combating gender inequality and sexism?
Thank you so much, Sharif, and thank you, Mirsal and Sandra, everyone, for the invitation. And being here is a very, very great opportunity to be with a very, very smart and lovely group of people, professionals, and talk about issues that are important to all of us. And I will here follow the good example from Dr. Mulki, and will not share my slides, but I will share them later with Sandra, and then you can share them with the participants if that is something people would like to have. But I will also just talk here then, and Sharif, I will answer here. Throughout the little introduction to our work, I will answer to your question as well. And for those who don't know Nicehearts, just a few words. We are an organization, NGO, doing girl and women specified work from the year 2001. Started from a little organization run by volunteers, and now 20 plus years after, we are NGO working in here in Helsinki region, in the metropolitan area, and also in South Karelia. And we are more or less 30 people now working with issues with women and girls. And how do we do our work? We have different programs. I also will tell just shortly about them, but I think there is kind of a path that we all follow in our organization. So everything starts first from the respectful encounterment, and we do everything to secure the space that we are working in. We are very much using the cultural and gender sensitivity as a method of work. We are very strongly committed to these methods, and we are trying to follow that in everything what we do. building safer spaces. When we are in a Zoom, in a room that is our own, or that is something we are as a guest, we want to do our best to make it a safe space, as safe as possible. And also we are all the time learning more and more about anti-racism as a process. Of course, we are understanding that we have a long way to go, but I think this is something very important also about the gender equality as well. We can't talk about gender equality without talking about racism as well. So these are the issues that we are committed to do in our work, and this is where we start from our work, and this is where we start our path. The next step is that we do work through our different models, through our different programs, and we have different target groups for different programs. We have things for girls and for young women, and we have a lot of services for women who move to Finland. And all of these programs, they have their little bit own goals, little bit something that is especially for that program. But we all work with each other, and we do cooperation inside the organization, but also with our very dear cooperation partners as well. And this is something that when we have the programs, we have possibility to specify, to focus a little bit what we do. We have services for women who move to Finland, who can need help with the paperwork, who need help with the different kind of issues, this kind of service guidance help. But then we also have models such as Neighborhood Mothers, where I am working in, where you have a space to do voluntary work as a woman who moved to Finland and have been here for a little bit longer time already. So we want also to build this space where you can be the active doer in this society, and not just someone who is part of the target group. So we can specify and offer different kind of things through our programs, which all kind of make a picture together, but also there are some specific points in every single project that we have and program. And the methods that we use inside every program that we have are very simple. First, we encounter the people as they are. We follow the guidelines of gender and cultural sensitivity. We build safer spaces. We talk about building safer spaces together. We share the knowledge that we have. And we do it in our group activities that all of our programs have. We do it in our individual one-on-one work that all of our programs have. And also what is something that we do with inside every program is that we build a bridge between people and services. We can be there to bring people together, to make services more approachable, to make them more understandable for the women and girls that we meet, but also to give feedback for the services about different issues, because there are a lot of problems why the services and the people don't meet. So then we can also be there to support our women, our girls, for them to be more heard and more seen. And that is something that we do, and we gladly do, because as an organization, it's easier for us to also give feedback, also to be critical. And that is not something that is easy for every our participants, especially with the immigrant background. It can be much more challenging, of course. And that all leads to another step, to the next step, where we can learn from each other. We are learning through the dialogue. In a safe and respecting space, people are heard, they are seen, and that is something that can create a space where everyone can be themselves, try new things without the fear of failing. And they can try out, they can learn new things, they can learn new perspectives from each other, not just from let's say, from a professional to the participant, but all the directions. And we often we invite different professionals from different services to our activities to make this straight connection between people, to have an open dialogue, because that's the moment when we can learn. That's the moment when our participants can also be heard by the professionals and have this straight conversation together. It's also a space where you can make friends, you can be yourself, you can grow your own self-esteem and your self-respect. You can think critically, you can learn how to use your voice, because everyone has their voice. It's not something we can give to anyone, but it's something we can support people to use. But you need a safe space to learn and to practice and to try out, to learn what you really want to do and who you really want to be. So these are all the topics and all the possibilities that the safe space with respect can offer to anyone. And there is always support from our professionals, from our people of Nicehearts. We are always there to be there. We got their backs always. And that is something very important as well. And then the next step, of course, is to be the active person, to be influential, be there to express yourself and to really act as a change agent that we believe that everyone can be. So we want really to be there to support our women and girls to be able to be themselves and find their own path, find their own way to be in this society. And yeah, we also hope that in time we have more and more possibilities where we can really meet together also in the physical space and bring different generations together. This is also a challenge for us to bring different generations together, but we are hoping that will happen now. There's a huge hunger for meeting each other, to talk with each other, and we are ready to give the space for that as well. And the critical thinking is very, very critical issue here. When you asked about how do we tackle with the sexism, how do we tackle with the challenges of gender equality? Well, we tackle it in a way that we follow this kind of a route map here that I just explained, one step at a time, and all the time supporting our women, all the time giving them the safe feeling that you can do and you can think, you have something to say, and we are here to listen to you and we are here to support you. So when this is ready, you need time, this is a process, so it doesn't happen like that, as we all know in here. So you need to have steps to be ready to use your voice, because as many of you have said, there is a tendency in all around the world, every corner of the world, there is a tendency where women and girls are put down and they are not expected to use their voice. They are not expected to really influence. And that is something that takes a long time, and it takes a process to change the pattern. And it is nothing to do with the religion or with the culture or with the country. This is in every single corner of the world. This is the issue that women are challenged with. And that is why there is also no fast lane. We have to do the whole work, and we are committed to do that. So yeah, when there is space, when there is support, you can do your own activities, you can help others, you can be the active person, you can use your voice, you can make statements, you can even make your own campaigns, you can influence one way or another. But it takes time and it takes a lot of work and it takes all these steps. And that's why there is no magic dust in this, it's just work. And yeah, the issues that I think are the most clear ones are stopping this, or that are, it's not stopping us, of course, but it's making this work challenging, is the structural racism, is the personal experiences of racism. It's a patriarchal structures. It's a personal experience about patriarchal structures. It's the experience of being discriminated, put down, lack of flexibility in public system, in working life, lack of diversity in the public conversation, lack of role models and space in the public conversation. And of course, this all can lead to a decreased level of self-esteem, your self-respect, which then lowers your possibility to really be yourself. And often it's about the networks. You don't know the people, you don't have your own community, or you don't have a safe space to really explore. So these are the few clear challenges that I think that through our work we can clearly see that are really big challenges, and making it harder to really get to the gender equality, which is never done. Gender equality is never ready. There is no, we can always say to ourselves that Finland in this is this and that, and we are as a society here and there, but there is so much to do. And if we think we are there, we have lost the game. So we have to all the time do the work and take nothing for granted, because that's when we will lose it. So these are some issues that I would raise here, because the importance of being a community, having the people around you, having friends, having someone having your back is really, really important, and we can't block that from this conversation as well. So confidence, encounterments, support, safe space, possibility to learn and also to teach, to be yourself and explore. Those are the issues that we are working with, and through our different programs we are doing that every day in our work. And we are, like I said, we are here in the capital region, but also in South Karelia, and we are really happy to do with different cooperation partners. We are happy to do two things together. So we don't think that we can do anything alone. We are all in this together. So yes, here are the few words, and I have the slides here that I can then share with you later on, but I'm really happy also to hear your comments or questions. I'm happy to answer them now or later.
Thank you so much, Liisa. And of course, we in Mirsal have had already the privilege to get to know more about Nicehearts' work and neighborhood moms. And I am really happy to see an initiative like that offers also, like you said, the safe space for women and girls to have their own voice and choose their own path. And I think this also, most likely, I can only imagine that this means a lot for migrant women and girls who come here, and it's very, very good and important to acknowledge that, yes, they do face, like you had mentioned, challenges also in the structures of patriarchy that exist here, and structural racism. Now, without further ado, I'm sure there's questions piling up, so that we can manage to have them all. I'll just go on to our next guest speakers, Hope Makara and Patryk Sierpowski from Familia RU. I can ask already now at the beginning some of the questions that we can present to you right now at the beginning. I assume that both of you probably will be speaking. So here are some questions. Why and how does gender matter for intercultural families? That going to Patryk, I think. And also, how do families from different cultures view gender equality? Also for Patryk. And for Hope, what are some of the factors that contribute to gender inequalities in the labor market among immigrant men and women? And what are some of the obstacles that women face in the event of a separation or a divorce? So I can repeat these questions obviously again, but I'm sure you will also address them when you have your turn to speak now. So please,
thank you, Sharif. Before Patryk, you answer one of your questions or both, I just wanted to say thank you to Liisa and say a little bit about Familia. Familia is an organization that works with intercultural families and people. We are providing education and materials and knowledge about intercultural families. We don't always we're not the kind of organization that provides a specific service and then service users use it. We operate more from the volunteer basis. So training volunteers to then volunteers do the activities that they want to do that are related to the topic of interculturalism. For example, we have like a duo olohuone kind of group where families just come and mingle. There is a mom and baby group where mom of intercultural marriages or families come, bring their babies, and then they just get to spend time together and do whatever they want to do during that time to support each other as peers in intercultural relationships. So that's kind of where we work. Yeah, I'll let Patryk start off his questions then.
Yes, hi. So thank you for inviting us. I'm quite new in Familia. I'm a volunteer. And like answering for your questions, I think that this issue of gender and multicultural families is so important, basically because like gender structures every part of social life. So when we combine it with some different parts of society, of the culture that can produce some oppressions like racism or different inequalities embodied by people, for example, in Finland, then we have quite complicated view of different relations that somehow can give like people a way to satisfy their needs, but also somehow limit their. So, for example, one instance would be the example from a book, Making Multicultural Families in Europe. There's example of a Thai woman in Belgium who somehow are involved in Bunkun, that is the cultural responsibility to take care of their family, of their parents. And how does it look when these Thai women are in relationships with Belgian men and husbands? And how is it related with the Belgian view of the family that is quite nuclear, quite focused on this very relationship and not that much about like broader view of the family. So sometimes these women found their like way to fulfill this responsibility by taking into dependency financial dependency. Somehow they seek to be more independent to fulfill it. So there were like some different strategies, but what's important is that the gender is also highly related with these international nets or networks of care. And it was also visible or is visible in the phenomena of so-called latające babcie. And it's the Polish term for commuting, or in direct translation, flying grandmothers. That is the exemplification of international care taken by grandmothers from Poland in Norway, taking care of the children or grandchildren who's in Norway. So the gender is so highly related with this care, for example, as here in this international care, and it structures is in a very visible way. So I think that it's super important to take care of this perspective while talking about the intercultural or international families. Yes. So yeah, and maybe going straight to this different issue that is this gender equality that we are talking here about. Maybe I would like to somehow deconstruct it and also root it in the context of Finland. So there was one research with the youth workers from Finland who were working with, for example, Muslim girls who live here. And the problem was that the gender equality, in their view, was totally unadjustable to those girls' lifestyles. So they view it in super individualistic way. The family was seen as an obstacle to like somehow feel there as an independent and empowered girl. So the problem is how we understand it and how we link these different views of gender equality in different cultural and national contexts. So there's one problem like this, and there's also one example like from more like related with me, the Polish context of women who migrated from Poland to Norway, and how they found themselves in the context of somehow gender equal Norway, when the institutional childcare is super important and is super obvious for everybody, but in Polish context, it is somehow associated with the socialist past, like the gender equality and also the childcare, institutional childcare. So it can be somehow like treated as an obstacle or something that they don't want to have anything. They don't want to be related with it. So these women that were taking part in this research were like using it quite differently and were taking favor of this Norway way of taking care of the children. But what is important that this view of gender equality and its like embodiment or the realization in case of this taking care of the children in, for example, public institutions, is super different in these in these two contexts. So I think that what's important is to find the link, not only like in this multiculturalism, but also how this gender is understood and how equality or way of satisfying the needs of different people is also understood and viewed. Thank you.
I can continue if you're done, Patryk. Yeah, thank you for your answer, and thank you to everyone who's spoken. I've really enjoyed all of the speakers and learned a lot. As Patryk mentioned, kind of here with two hats, as a personal individual hat and as a, sorry, that's the dogs, and as a representative of Familia. So Sharif had asked about divorce and separation in Finland, and that is something that Familia works with. We have like a duo support group. We have published guides about separation, and what we see often, especially like to come full circle, is more women migrate to Finland than men on the basis of spouses or family ties. So without a tie to economic support, whether they have their own jobs or careers, then they're often, you know, here as a spouse. And though that has some security in the type of visa that you hold, then you don't enter into a network or a circle where you already have professional contacts, if that's what you want. And then also, according to the OECD report and the Tilastokeskus, then women generally, especially, I can't speak about the Muslim community in Finland because I'm not Muslim, and that is not necessarily something that we target with Familia, although all persons are welcome. But what we often see for women is that they end up staying home with their children and embodying more of these traditional family roles. And the longer that they, for motherhood, whatever children they have, the longer that they stay away from the labor market, then the harder it is to re-enter the labor market. And that can cause a few things. It can cause this isolation, not just in employment or having your own finances, but it can also cause a social isolation, and lack of support and a peer support. When you don't have these institutions, whether it's volunteering, whether it's work, whether it's school, to tie you to other people, then you don't have a way to necessarily make those social connections that are so important when you're already in a country that's not the country that you're born, and you're trying to make a home here. Those connections are so important. So women become isolated even further, especially more women come to Finland as spouses, and then they often, without this economic tie, they then become mothers, and some of them choose to stay home. And then if they have a second or third kid, and immigrant women in Finland have on average 2.5 children compared to the Finnish native born women who have 0.5 children. I laughed at the 0.5 children, thinking about what 0.5 children was, but statistically this is true. So we see then foreign born women staying at home for longer for each succession of children that comes. And then when you're already, whether you're in an intercultural relationship, meaning you have a partner from a different culture than your own, whether that's a Finnish man and a foreign born woman, or a foreign born man and a Finnish woman, or whatever this might look like, or two different cultures that are not Finnish, and then living here as an intercultural, then you already have a lot of things that can lead to potential disagreements and separation. So you have women being isolated from the labor market, which can also cause then this social and peer isolation. Then having the responsibilities of being a mother and whatever that entails. Traditionally, that's cleaning of the house and cooking and other things as well. And then you have also this continued distance from the labor market, the lack of friends, and then only having the husband and the family to rely on. We see sometimes in these separations that when women then become separated for whatever reason from their spouses, especially when they have a Finnish partner and then they are not Finnish, they don't know their rights because they've spent most of their life as moms and as wives in Finland, as that's their identity, not their whole life, but they've spent their time as this. And so when they separate, they don't know, okay, what are your rights? How do you separate? How do you get a divorce? How do you relocate? Do you need a place to live? What happens to your children? How do you split custody? What you cannot do? You cannot take your children and leave the country. Do you change their schools? And of course, there's so many factors that go into this. Finding employment, how to finance, getting a loan to be able to then pay for an apartment or rent an apartment when you haven't worked in Finland. So this is some of the area where Familia meets service users, that when they're going through a separation and they reach out and they don't know what to do. So I think that's really important. I'm kind of lost my train of thought. I forgot where I was going with this, but that's a really important part where we see this gender inequality is in between these intercultural relationships, and especially when it comes to separation. All of these factors, motherhood, lack of employment, lack of social connections, lack of individual finances, then create this kind of situation where gender inequalities are very prevalent. And I think it's so great to see all these organizations working for the same thing. And I wish that there would even be more collaboration from NGO to NGO and educational institutions. But Yeah, thanks. I see. Just wanted to remind you we're running a bit late, so on time. Sorry. Thanks, Sharif. Yes, I will wrap it up. But that's where Familia is working, and I think that's kind of I think the question was about empowerment and methodologies, but always empowering whoever comes to Familia to then, we encourage them to be volunteers so that they can bring to fruition whatever their interests are and have those social connections that maybe they need. If they do then choose, for instance, to be a stay-at-home mom or wife, then that is their choice, but then supporting that and what that looks like in terms of gender equality. Gender equality doesn't look the same to every culture, but just making sure that to support gender equality, that women specifically know their rights in terms of separation and in the perspective of intercultural relationships. Sorry I went so fast. I know we're running out of time, but thank you, everyone.
Not at all. Thank you so much, Hope and Patryk, for your insightful input. And I really admire this, the first time I actually know even a bit more about Familia's work, and how I really admire how you think out of the box, or work out of the box in terms of how you see individuals and families, and how your work is particularly culture sensitive in terms of, as you said, that gender equality may mean a bit of different things to different cultures. I would like to welcome, actually at the moment, the Q&A session before we actually end with Dr. Anu Leinonen's ending words. How does everybody feel about that? Is everybody still alive? I know we want to, or we've all been having a long work day, obviously, but yes, please. I see that Liisa has her hand up. Please, if you have a question.
Maybe it's more of a comment, but thank you, Hope, and thank you, Patryk, and all of the speakers here today. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to maybe raise one thing that is very important to us, and I know that it is common for all of us organizations in here. We all have possibilities for voluntary work and voluntary activities. That is something that we all share. And I think it is something that when we think about gender equality, especially for immigrant women, immigrant background women, we have all these organizations who are offering possibilities to be volunteer, especially for people who moved in here, because that is already a thing that is not available for in general in this society. That tells so much about Finnish society, how stuck and how locked our roles are in this society, that even the field of voluntary work is kind of stuck with the native Finnish speakers. And because every one of us, we mentioned the voluntary work somehow, so I think it's something that needs to be heard and seen and having some attention, because it is kind of absurd that we really have to highlight the possibility to do even voluntary things. So then if we think about our working life in here, what can we expect if even our voluntary field is kind of locked with certain level of language and often with the background as well. Just a notion here.
Sharif, you're muted.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I said thank you, Liisa. And Mulki, please.
Yes, so it was about with two Yanika. I hope I'm very sorry if I slaughtered your name. I'll learn it better. Tell me how to pronounce it so that I do you right.
Yanika.
Yanika,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
It's a beautiful name. I've heard so much about your organization. I haven't had a chance to meet you. Some of my colleagues have been in conversation with you as part of their research, and I'm very happy to um, hear you talk more about your organization. Just a couple of things. It's not really questions, but some things that all our colleagues here touched upon. Yanika, Patryk, and Liisa, and the others. So I really appreciate it, Yanika, how you really emphasize the importance of the authority of different kinds of knowledge, specifically experiential knowledge, the knowledge that comes from the experiences of women. That is so, so, so important, and that is something also that has been recognized in academia, so that, that women's experiences, their lived realities are a source of knowledge, are important, are to be learned from, are also to be given authority, and so I'm really appreciate that you made that point, right? And for Patryk, I really liked how you unpacked the gender inequality thing. How we all thinking the same thing? Equality, gender equality. And I hear you saying, like for some people, it's very important. What a Lebanese American scholar called Suad Joseph calls the relational self. Like, so we're not just these free-floating islands, but we are part of families or communities, and they shape who we are, what we want, our aspirations. We have challenges with them sometimes, tensions with them, but they are part of who we are, right? And so it doesn't mean all people want the same thing. So I think that was really spot on. And and then the part about care work. Care work is so important, and it's transnational. Most of us now, we live in this super diverse world where we're all interconnected. And when you have family members elsewhere, or you have someone who is sick, and this goes to gender, who takes care of that, right? And then, it relates also to question of masculinity, because gender is also about masculinity and manhood, and how we understand manhood and womanhood, right? So like, if who's supposed to do this care work, and the tensions that happens with that, because care work is, again, it's not just idealistic. Yeah, we care for our family, but it requires a lot of work. It means prioritizing different aspirations and within the family, right? So I just want to say, and at least I had the chance to be in one of your forums before, so in Nicehearts several years ago. I just want to say I feel privileged to be part of this forum. I want to thank you again for inviting me. I'm learning so much from all of you, and I want you to excuse me that I have to log off now, because I need to get home and take care
Not
of
at all.
familial responsibilities.
Yes, obviously. Thank you so much,
Thank you. Yeah.
Mulki, and thank you for having the time to be here. And we have certainly learned a lot, also from your input in this forum today. Thank you very much.
Same here. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Stay well.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. Well, I assume if there are, unfortunately, I am very sorry. We have to probably move on now to the ending words by Dr. Anu Leinonen. But I assume that if it's amazing that everybody has also, or some people have, I assume, shared even their contacts, and you can also share any additional questions you have with us, and we'll make sure they reach the right person, and the answers also mail them to you. Thank you all for participating in this forum, and without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Anu Leinonen.
Thank you very much, Sharif. Thank you for everybody. I mean, most of you are from member organizations, so you know the Annalyn Foundation. It's an intergovernmental organization that works to support civil society organizations' work for intercultural dialogue. And the idea there is that the organizations, because they're often small, they should work together. So in the national networks, we try to get the organizations together to discuss about common issues and come up ideas with ideas for common projects. So this has been excellent in that sense. It's been wonderful to see so many of you here from our organizations and to hear more about what wonderful work you do. And of course, gender equality is one of the cross-cutting themes for the Anna Lindh Foundation 3-year period that is just starting. So we are also happy to start our part with a project focusing explicitly on gender equality, because we really haven't been doing that much on it lately. So this has been really a pleasure. And thank you so very much, Sandra and Sharif, for making this possible and doing all the hard work. So applause to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anu, and thank you all for being part of this. I think it's your participation and your input that actually also made this what it is, and also I think as several times it has been said that work towards gender equality is constant, and obviously it never finishes. So no matter how much we ended up also covering in these past almost 2 hours, obviously we can always cover more and more, but I have to say that it has been a fruitful conversation, and it's a pleasure to really learn from all of you and your organization. And thank you to Anna Lindh Foundation also for helping us make this happen. Thank you very much, everyone. I guess we will end this seminar on this note. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.